welcome. Thank you for joining us. Oh, perfect. I'll say that again. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I know this was short notice, so I really appreciate you guys all coming out. I'm gonna try to go through this pretty quickly. I know it sounds like a lot of you have done this before, but I want to give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have. And if you want to, feel free to put your questions in the chat. I will try to keep up. Amanda, if I miss something, can you let me know? That would be great. We're first going to talk about elections, and then we will talk briefly about bylaws updates. So if you're just here for the elections portion, you can jump out after we finish that if you're not planning to update your bylaws this year. So most of you will be having your election meetings next month. So we kind of want to talk about what you need to make sure that everything runs smoothly leading up to the election, how to conduct the election, and some teleconferencing tips as well. All right, so this is the process. You set the election date, you elect the nominating committee at least 60 days prior. The parliamentarian calls the first meeting of the nominating committee, and those things in red hopefully have happened for you already, since most of you should be having your election meetings in February. Your election meeting date is in your bylaws, Article 5, Section 7 or Article 7, Section 2, and you can find the date understanding Rule 7. I know it's in two places, it's kind of weird, but you'll find that there. Section 5 is all about the election, so if you're interested in reading more, those are the parts that you guys are going to be reading at your meeting as well. So once the nominating committee meets, they select their people, they're going to submit their report to the members, and then we're going to give notice, and we're going to have our election and sign the committee report. So I'm going to go through these a tiny bit, but if you are have your election meeting in February, you should be getting ready to send out your notices. And if you're going to be late with that, you can contact me, but I want to talk to you about that a little bit later. All right. Okay. Instructions to the nominating committee. Is there anybody who hasn't gotten together with their nominating committee yet? Yes? Okay. All right. So quickly, this is about what you're going to do. As soon as your nominating committee is elected, you want to contact, the parliamentarian will contact all of the people in the nominating committee, including the alternates, and find a date that works for everyone. You need to have the number of members for your nominating committee and alternates that are listed in your bylaws in in Article 5, sorry. In order to have a nominating committee, you must have at least the number that's listed there. If you don't have any alternates, you can kind of slide by without that, but you need to have the actual number of nominating committee members. So if it says five members and 2 alternates, if you don't have 5 members, you can't actually have a nominating committee. Once you elect those people, you're going to call them together, find a date where they can all meet. You need to have that number 5. If one of the people that's elected to the nominating committee cannot make the first meeting, then one of the alternates can step in. Again, if you don't have the full number, then you're going to have to reschedule and find another date. Once the alternate takes the place of the person who's on the nominating committee, that person does not serve and the alternate becomes a part of the nominating committee. You're going to give them the instructions, as you can see here, review the job descriptions, talk to them about confidentiality, term limits, and all the rules that go along with nominating committees. They need to contact candidates for consent, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, and make sure that they find the most qualified candidates. So one thing that they should really know is that they should only have one nominee per office, and only one person can be elected for office. You can't have co-officers. If I know sometimes people have trouble finding one person that's willing to do it. Like, well, we'll do it together, but you can't put two names on the slate. So you can, you'll need to make one of those people become the officer, and then the other person can be appointed as an assistant. Is that a question?
I don't see any questions at this moment.
Okay, sorry, I thought I heard something. All right. So the duties of the nominating committee: to contact the candidates, provide the info of the duties of the job, confirm that they are capable, willing, and eligible. You cannot put somebody on the slate who has not agreed to be on the slate. The nominating committee will vote to choose the nominees, and the chairperson, who is elected by the nominating committee with the parliamentarian there, is responsible for contacting the nominees to make them aware of the committee's decision, to let them know that they should attend the election meeting. Nominees should be there. If they're not there, they need to give their consent in writing so that you have consent from them, and to be sure to complete the nominating committee report. Okay, so this is what's going to be due very, very soon for most of you. Your nominating committee report needs to be submitted to your members at least 28 days prior to the election meeting. And you want to do this in the most effective way to reach all the members. So you could put it on your website, but if your website PTA thing is tucked away in a tab that nobody ever looks at, then nobody will ever see it. So you might want to also send an email. If you're on campus, especially like elementary, you might want to post it on your bulletin board. You can put it in your newsletter. The way that you can get it out the best to all of your members. You want to make sure, as a parliamentarian and the president, you want to ensure that all the candidates on the slate are eligible. So take a quick look at it, make sure that they haven't already served the 2 terms, make sure that there's only one nominee per office, and that each person is only listed 1 time. The president, the financial officers, and the check signers cannot be related. And they must give consent, and they must be members of your association for 30 days before nomination being the day that they of the election. So if you're posting this 28 days before, you need to make sure that they are a member of a PTA, or of your PTA, before you post that. Now, this could be an issue for PTAs who have transitions, such as middle schools and high schools, where you might be getting elementary people. Just if they are a member of your PTA, of another PTA, they can just add the membership to your PTA after. Oh, sorry. What to do when no candidates are found for a position. So I know that it's hard to get volunteers these days. It's very important that you post your slate the 28 days prior to the election, even if you don't have all the positions filled. So you can put open for any position that's not filled, and the nominating committee can continue to look for people until the election date. On the election date, the nominating committee can present an updated version with any people that they've added since the time of posting. If you don't post your nominating committee report or slate prior to, then you can't use that. If you don't have enough members, you can't do that. And then you'll end up having an election with all the nominations from the floor, which is kind of a pain. So we hope you don't have to do that. You can, however, change the date if you need to change the date. It is best to keep your date, the one that's in your bylaws, but if you give 30 days notice that your meeting date is going to be a different date, that is acceptable. And there may still be positions that are open after the election. That's okay too. It's better if you can get them all filled, but if not, the executive board elect The incoming officers will be filling those positions. So here's a little overview of the annual election meeting. At least 30 days ahead, you need to post a notice of your election meeting. If you have it listed on your calendar, that's great. You should try to send an email or post it somewhere prominent on your website. Again, the report of the nominating committee, the president's going to preside over the meeting. The secretary needs to be prepared for a ballot vote with a member list from the membership chair and ballots. The parliamentarian will read the bylaws relating to the elections. And the nominating committee chair will be reading the report and providing the signed copy of that. So you want to make sure that all those people are going to be there at your election meeting. So nominations must be called for from the floor. So this is also a great way to get people. If you have open positions, you can let them know that you need these positions. You must have a president, a recording secretary, and a treasurer in order to have a PTA. If you do not elect those 3 positions, then at the end of the year, your PTA will no longer be able to exist. So those 3 positions are very key, and you want to make sure that you have someone in those positions. Other positions can be left open indefinitely, but those 3 must be filled. So usually we just have trouble finding people. So you're really probably not going to get too many people nominating from the floor. This is mostly going to be a formality, but sometimes, we may have very many eager volunteers that didn't get a chance to be on the slate. Hopefully you've tapped all those people out already before you get to your election meeting. Or if there is some contention that you anticipate, maybe somebody wants to get on the board and is stirring up some trouble, please let me know or someone on the Torrance Council Board of Directors so that we can assist you with your election. There are other things that will need to be done if in the case that you have nominations from the floor in addition to a nomination on your report from the nominating committee. So if there are more than 1 nominee per office, then you're going to have to do a ballot vote. So normally we do a voice vote. If there's only 1 nominee, then we can just say, these are the candidates. If you want them, say yes. If not, say no. And it's pretty simple. But if you have more than 1, then it gets a lot more complicated. We have to do a ballot vote. If you guys are doing it in person, it's actually not too terribly difficult. You just can hand out some pieces of paper that you've prepared ahead of time. I recommend you use like a colored piece of paper or something that is pre-prepared so that you have an idea that people aren't just putting in their own pieces of paper. But if someone puts in more than 1 ballot, then those ballots are disqualified. If a member wants to have a ballot vote, maybe somebody doesn't like the candidate and they want to see if everybody doesn't want them. If someone moves to have a ballot vote with only 1 nominee, you must have a ballot vote with only 1 nominee. And you can also do a combination. So if there are 2 on one, several candidates for 1 office and only 1 for others, then you can do a voice vote for all the ones that have only 1 nominee, and then just do the ballot vote for the ones that are required. So the procedure for holding a ballot vote is the president will conduct the vote. They're going to appoint tellers. There'll be one chair and two tellers, so three people altogether who will count the ballots. They're going to call for a count of the House, meaning that they're going to count every single person in the room that is eligible to vote. So if you anticipate having to do a ballot vote or then you might want to check membership at the door and hand out slips when they come in. Um, again, if you think that you're going to have to do this, then please let us know because we will help you and we know what to do and it'll be a lot easier for you. If you don't have a membership list, then you have to let everybody who is present, all the adults that are present, vote. But if you have a membership list, then you will count all of the members and then instruct the voters how to fill out the ballots. The tellers will distribute and collect the ballots, and they will be watching people when they turn them in to make sure that they only turn in one at a time. There are a lot of rules, such as if two ballots are folded together, they are counted ineligible. Only members may vote. Sorry. And only members may nominate people. So and they have to be members for 30 days. So when someone calls from the floor, I want to nominate Amanda. If they're not a member, they cannot make a nomination. Okay. So this is a quick overview of what the tellers will do. I also have some handouts, so with more specific information, and I have posted it on the website under the parliamentarian training page. So you guys can have all this stuff. I won't bore you with all the nitty-gritty details. But if you are going to do this via teleconferencing, you will want to do a few things ahead. Actually, in some ways, it's a little bit easier to do it because you can do a Zoom poll and that automatically goes out to everyone in the room. But there are some things that you will need to do as safeguards to ensure that only members are voting. So recommend that you require registration for attendance, just like we did today, so that you have all the names ahead of time. You want to verify the membership of each attendee prior to the meeting. The person who's setting up the Zoom can prepare an electronic ballot ahead of time. You can set up breakout rooms for members so that if there are people who cannot vote, you can put them in a breakout room. Then you send that poll out and only one person, each person only gets one vote automatically. If you send out the vote, the poll with everyone in the room, then everybody who's there gets a vote. So if you don't have a membership list, then you can just give it to everybody and then they can vote. And the poll basically will tell you how many people there were and what the votes were. Each nominee is allowed to have an observer, so they can have somebody who checks the tellers when they make the votes in case they want to have somebody watch. It cannot be the nominee, but they can appoint someone to observe for them. And again, if you're doing this via teleconferencing, we don't share, when we report the results of a ballot vote, we don't necessarily share the actual tally. We will share the number of people eligible to vote or of the number of votes, and then who won the election. We only will tell how many votes there were if somebody asks. So you would want to have a way to communicate with the president to let them know what the results of the vote were. And a definite thing I recommend is that you prepare a PowerPoint or Google Slides that has slots so that you can type in the names of the people who are being nominated, just to make it a little bit easier for people to know who they're voting for. Okay, there is a script which is also on the website and it is fillable. So once you put in all the names of all the people, it will populate it because you have to say them like 3 times. So it will fill it in for you so that you don't have to fill it in 3 different times. And again, the last page in that script is handling nominations from the floor. And then the next page is instructions for handling a ballot vote. Pretty much what I went over, but a little bit more in detail. Okay. So at the end of the vote, the president announces who is elected. If there is a challenge, say someone thinks that you cheated or you didn't count the votes correctly or didn't do it properly, any challenges must occur during the election meeting. And if that happens, then you would probably have to do the vote again. But if somebody after the fact you finished, you went home, you all, went to bed, the next day they go, wait a minute, you guys didn't do that right. I want you to do a recount. It's too late. All challenges must occur during the election meeting. And if you have a ballot vote and no nominee receives a majority vote, the ballot is repeated until you get a majority vote. So this is a bit problematic if you have a tie. However, if people arrive during, after the vote, the first vote, they can participate in the next vote. So if people have supporters that come in, you might eventually even it out. And the president and the board is also welcome to vote in a ballot vote.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Vicky. I'm a parliamentarian for Arlington PTA.
Yes.
When you say that the elected person has to have the majority vote, does that mean like majority, like more than half of the voters?
Yes, one more than half.
Thank you.
No problem. Is there any other questions? Anybody have any questions about elections?
I have a couple of questions. This is Angelina, Jefferson Middle School parliamentarian. For my nominating committee, I have the full nominating committee and my alternates, and we're just getting ready to have our first formal meeting. But scheduling right around this time is a little bit of a challenge. Does it? I have the commitment of everyone on the team. They're willing to meet. We're just trying to figure out the date. Could we meet with like 4 knowing that that 5th person is willing to participate and I could catch them up later? Or does it have to be the full committee meeting at the same time? Like everyone in a
Yeah, if you don't have the full 5, then you need to pull an alternate to take that 5th person's place.
For the purpose of the meeting or taking over for that person?
That person would take over for that person. All members must be present at the first meeting of the nominating committee. So if you want that 5th person to be there, then you need to unfortunately figure out a date and time that they can come.
Okay, all right. I'm glad that I'm having this call because I'll have to reschedule my first meeting because I have only 4 of my 5, but that's okay.
Okay, and you are welcome to meet via teleconferencing for your committees as long as it's in your bylaws, which I believe everybody has that allowance at this point. Most people do, but they're welcome to meet via teleconferencing if that makes it easier.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else have any questions about elections? Is most everybody's election in February?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you will need to be keeping an eye on the dates to make sure someone's in March. Yes, I think there are 2 schools that are in March and 1 in April actually, but if you are no longer able to make your election meeting after the second half of April. So if you're moving your date, you should make sure to get it done early and not wait too long. And the reason that we do them so early, long ago, we used to actually elect our incoming board in May or June. But the problem is that the incoming board has a lot of work to do before the last association meeting of the year. So you need to find chairs, set a budget, do a calendar. There's a lot of things, elect any open positions. All those things have to be done in the spring. So although they're being elected for the next year, their job really starts pretty quick.
I have a quick question about the 30-day notification.
Yes.
So the 30-day notification, do we post that on the date in the bylaws? Or if the meeting's not going to be held on the date in the bylaws, ours that is being moved to March? Or is it just 30 days before the actual meeting?
You should give the notice 30 days before the actual meeting. But if you're changing it to a later date, I would recommend that you put out that notification sooner than later. So it
Okay.
doesn't have to be 30 days. It has to be at least 30 days. So no less than 30 days prior to the meeting. Same with the slate, no less than 28 days prior. Any other questions? Okay. Well, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. I'm usually pretty quick about answering back. If you need a really quick answer, then you can text me. I'm more than happy to help you with anything or answer any of your questions. Or if you find that, oh my gosh, 30 days has passed and I'm like 25 days away, what am I going to do? Contact me. You know, it's happened. It's happened to me too. You know, time goes by and we miss things sometimes, and that's okay. There's ways to work around it. So just let me know. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a quick thing about bylaws and updating them. Most of you have updated your bylaws a couple years ago when I was parliamentarian before. There are 3 units that need to update their bylaws this year, and I have contacted you, so hopefully you know if that's you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about bylaws since you guys are a lot of parliamentarians here. There's 2 sections to your bylaws, the actual bylaws. Okay, if you don't want to hear about the bylaws, thank you very much for attending. That's fine if you drop out. And so the bylaws, body of the bylaws, and the standing rules. Standing rules are the rules that can be changed by only a vote of your board and association. The body of the bylaws can only be changed by submitting it through CAPTA. And there's a lot of things in there that cannot really be changed at all. So if you are doing a bylaws review, you want to have your president appoint a bylaws committee and have it ratified by the board. You should be reviewing your bylaws every year or checking to see if everything is current. And you are required to update it through channels to CAPTA at least every 5 years. So when I said there's a few people that needed to update, that's because the 5 years is coming up. So I will notify you if you need to, but if you need to make any changes, then you're welcome to update them at any time. When you update them, you want to fill out the bylaws worksheet. This will just help you when you go on e-bylaws. I think actually there's another form that they're using now. There are instructions for completing the bylaws. This will also help you figure out some of those numbers and things that you may not be intuitive, like your quorum. Something that's new is that quorum, standing committees are not being counted in the board quorum anymore, but they will count if you have 10 or more in your association quorum. So if you're having trouble beating quorum, that's something you might want to consider reviewing. There's no longer, I'm sorry, Angelina, did you have a question?
No, sorry, I just forgot to put myself back on mute.
No problem. Okay, there is no longer a paper form, so we are only on the computer now for bylaws. You have to use e-bylaws. The good news is they fixed e-bylaws and it is way better now. So it is really easy to use and much easier than the paper form. And I mentioned that you want to fill out that bylaws information sheet before you go there because it'll help you when you start filling in things on e-bylaws. On the CAPTA website, you'll go to PTA leaders, run your PTA, and then click on bylaws and standing rules. And it will open up this page and you'll see the thing that says check out e-bylaws. You'll click there. You have to have a password and a login in order to go in there to look at it. You can look at it whether you are updating your bylaws or not, but you need to choose request a username and password if you haven't signed up, and they'll send you something. If you already have a PIN, you can go to access e-bylaws and it'll take you to this screen where you can log in. This will allow you to enter all the information into your bylaws for all those little blanks that get filled in on the bylaws form, and it will automatically print those for you. When you do the e-bylaws, it does not submit anything to anyone. It's just a place for you to fill in the information so that you can print a revised version of your bylaws. When you go to e-bylaws, if you've completed it, and you think, oh, I'm done, that is just the very, very first step. So, oh, sorry. What they will want you to do if you change your bylaws is to change the word chairman to chair everywhere in your bylaws. I've been told that the state parliamentarian will reject your, it says chairman because we're getting away from that. And another thing to note when you go on e-bylaws is that teleconferencing is already a part of the bylaws now for association meetings, so you don't have to do anything for that. But the default on e-bylaws for teleconferencing for your board or your committees is no teleconferencing. So if you want to keep that in your bylaws, you have to make sure to check the yes box so that it will be included in your bylaws. Okay, when you go to do your bylaws, you want to fill in any blanks, any words in italics are optional, or there will be instructions to be followed for those. There are two different forms. There's an incorporated form and a corporated form. So if you are a corporation, your bylaws will look slightly different than those who are not incorporated. Anything that has a star on it or multiple stars in the standing rules, in the bylaws cannot be changed. Okay, dues changes can only be made by updating your bylaws through CAPTA. Also, any changes in your officers can only be updated by changing it in bylaws through CAPTA. Standing committees, you can change yourself as long as you approve it by your board and your association. And again, your standing rules can also be changed that way as well. A lot of people don't have standing rules for your unit. That is the rules basically that tells how you guys run your PTA. If you don't have them and you're the parliamentarian this year, you might want to consider helping your unit to create some. It's just a good way of being able to pass on the things that you guys want to make sure that your future PTAs are doing. There are several sets of standing rules. So you have the body of the bylaws, then CAPTA has standing rules, 33rd District has standing rules, Torrance Council of PTAs has standing rules, and all those have to be added to your bylaws. And then after that comes your unit bylaws. If you are doing a bylaws update, you would have your president appoint a committee. The committee would review the bylaws, and that would be led by you, the parliamentarian. You will fill out the form that shows which changes that you want to make and submit that to me. I will review it for you and let you know if there's anything that needs to be changed. And then I will submit it to 33rd District, who will review it, kick it back to me if there's anything that needs to be changed. And then 33rd District sends it to the captive parliamentarian, who reviews it. And if they don't like something, they kick it back to us again. Generally speaking, I catch most things. So once you pass me, you should be good. But when you get to, once the captive parliamentarian reviews it and approves it, they sign it, they send it back to 33rd District, who sends it back to me, and I send it back to you. At that point, you have to approve it at your association. It is not official until your association has approved it. You have to give 30 days notice again to your association with the change proposes. The proposed changes. And vote to adopt those changes. Once the association has voted, then it is official. Your president, recording secretary, sign the adopted bylaws for the date that it was voted on by the association. Your president, recording secretary, and parliamentarian keep copies with wet signature, and then that also gets returned to me so that I can send it back up through channel. This is the form, and that is also on the website. And after COVID, it used to collect $5 and you had to make a lot of copies, but now you don't have to do that anymore. You can just email it to me, skip the $5, skip the printing and all of that. So it's a lot easier. Okay, this is the amendment sheets. You need to put all of the changes in chronological order. Use the numbers from the newly updated form that you just printed. So the page numbers and all of that would be referenced to the current one that you're changing to, not your old one. And you want to make sure to write those all out so that it's clear what it is that you're changing. Okay, and I just talked about adopting it. And there we go. So anybody have any questions about bylaws, reviews, and updates? Are any of you guys doing an update this year? I think who needs to.
Hi, this is Jane Katz with the whole PTSA.
Oh,
and
yes.
We're doing an update. Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions about what you need to do?
I don't. I kept the email where you wrote down all of the steps. So, and then with this, I think I should be able to figure it out. But yeah, we're going to get on it this month.
Sounds good. I just want to remind you, okay, so your bylaws update is due in August. So you want to get it done this fiscal year.
Okay.
And it would be most ideal if you can get it approved and everything by your association by your final meeting in May or June. I'm assuming it's probably May.
Yeah.
So think about like backtracking that 30 days notice for that. So you would need to have it back by April. It takes sometimes a few weeks to turn it around once you submit it. So you'll want to make sure to get it in by like March or April.
Okay. Yeah, I was planning to meet with my committee this month and then hopefully get something submitted in February so we can be on the way.
Sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, then I will let you all go. Enjoy your family, eat your dinner. I will be posting this on the website. There's also a bunch of other videos on there. So if you missed something, you can check those out, or you're welcome to email me anytime. There's no question that is too small.
Thank you.
All right, thanks
Thank
so much.
you.